Scorpio Season 2024. Go deep or go home. Hello, my name is Eliane Nicole. I'm your astrologer and tarot reader, and in this video, I am going to talk about the Sun's transit through Scorpio, October 22nd to November 21st, and why it promises to be a deeply emotionally transformative time for the collective, but also in many of our personal lives as well. But first, I want to say, if you're watching this on Instagram, I'm only going to post the first 5 minutes here. The entire video will be available on my YouTube channel, Eliane Nicole. My YouTube channel is my name, Eliane Nicole. Please find me there. I will put a link in the bio to get there on my Instagram profile bio. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. Please like, please comment, please share. Please hit the notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. That all helps me in the algorithm. It helps me grow my community. It helps me grow my business. And it puts me in a position to continue to give these free astrological offerings. If you're watching this on Instagram, please make sure that you're following astrology.tarot.Eliane Nicole. Please like, please comment, please share. Please help me grow my Instagram community, but definitely go over to YouTube where you can watch the entire translation of the Sun's journey through the sign of Scorpio, October 22nd to November 21st, 2024. And now, without further ado, I will get into my interpretation of this year's Scorpio season. And every year we have a Scorpio season, but what makes each year unique is what the Sun's relationship is to how the other planets are currently placed in the sky during that particular season. And for starters, one thing that makes this Scorpio season special is that this is the last Scorpio season with Pluto in Capricorn that we will ever see in our lifetimes. And not only that, but Pluto is at the 29th degree, the anaretic, critical last degree of Capricorn for the last time that it will be there in 248 years for humanity. So this is a very specific point in history. And as the Sun enters Scorpio, it is in a square aspect to that Pluto at the 29th degree of Capricorn. And a square is a 90-degree angle. It's a hard aspect. It's a challenging aspect. And it is, it's a conflict or challenge that requires an action of some kind. And the planet Pluto and the sign of Scorpio have a resonance because both deal with the themes of transformation, death and rebirth, regeneration, and there is a lot of depth and shadow work that's associated with both the planet Pluto and the sign of Scorpio. Modern astrologers actually consider Pluto a co-ruler of the sign Scorpio. I tend to lean more into the ancient astrological teachings, which consider Mars the ruler of Scorpio, because I find in my astrology practice that lends itself to very accurate interpretations and insights. And so with that being said, let's look at the fact that as the Sun enters Scorpio, aside from Pluto being at the anaretic final degree of Capricorn, which has very significant historical implications, Mars, Scorpio's traditional planetary ruler, is in the sign of Cancer, where he is debilitated. It's not Mars's easiest place to be. And he's also in a water sign. So Cancer's a water sign. We're dealing with a lot of emotion this season as the sun in Scorpio travels through, as the sun travels through the sign of Scorpio. However, there are two very distinct phases of this Scorpio phase, of this Scorpio sun phase, because at first Mars will be in Cancer, and then Mars will switch to Leo for the second part. And so this may sound like a lot of astrological jargon. And if you're listening or watching and you don't understand all the astrological jargon, just keep listening until I get to the interpretation, because you can still get a lot out of this video. But I like to tell people exactly what I'm reading and how I'm coming to these interpretations for students of astrology or people who just want to know, because again, as I always say, as astrologers, these aren't psychic predictions. We are reading a cosmic language. So Mars in Cancer, it has to do so much with homeland security on a collective level. It has to do with, you know, the ancestors, the bloodline, the homeland security. But in our personal lives, it has to do with personal and family security, personal home security and safety. So all of these issues are at the forefront, especially of the first part of the sun through Scorpio this season. When we get to the Leo part, it'll be a little bit different, but I'm going to discuss that more in my new moon of Scorpio video. We've already had a couple waves of the Scorpio energy come in because Venus was in Scorpio, and then Mars entered Scorpio. So the sun is coming in third to Venus, the goddess of love and beauty and justice, already kind of setting the stage. And then Mercury, the planetary messenger, also coming and kind of setting the stage. And I look at it as these cosmic waves, these of Scorpio that are washing over us. But, you know, because there's such a watery sky, and Venus came in with that grand trine to Saturn and Neptune, and, you know, Mercury's coming in next, and Mercury will also be trining Saturn and Neptune, and then the sun will trine Saturn and Neptune. So these themes are being repeated. They're like, you know, I don't know, almost like choruses in a song, or chords that are being strummed repeatedly, so that we can like kind of really process these alignments. And the planets are reflecting back to us these kinds of like cosmic lessons, I guess, or these tones or flavors that we're experiencing on planet Earth. And with all of this water, it has so much to do with our emotions and our emotional intelligence and our emotional, you know, maturity. It's like those muscles are really being strengthened during this period. And, you know, in humanity's evolutionary progress and in our personal evolutionary progress, it's almost like, you know, the universal edict is for us to strengthen this part of us. You know, water corresponds so much to the soul from an astrological perspective. You know, water is the soul of the earth. The oceans are the soul of the earth. Most of our bodies are comprised of water, and that very much relates to the soul. And so there's also a certain soulfulness of this season. Yeah, I want to talk about some of the exact transits that are happening. When I say go deep or go home, you know, that can mean something different. That can mean something different to different people, depending on your own personal astrology. you really have to look at the house that Scorpio rules in your chart to see where the sun is highlighting kind of a deep dive. And for some people, say you're a Scorpio rising, then it's going through your first house. It's going to be very personal to you. It's going to have to do with your body. So maybe you're doing a deep dive into some health issues, or maybe you're doing a deep dive into your psychology. It might involve psychotherapy or psychoanalysis of some kind. If it's traveling through your second house or eighth house, it could have to do with a deep dive on your value system, or maybe it's forensic accounting that you're having to do during this season of your finances. If it's happening in your third house, it might have to do with a deep dive into some environmental circumstances that you're dealing with, or perhaps it's with your own writing, you know. If it's in the eighth house or ninth house or third house, it might be research of some kind that you're doing a deep dive into. You know, for some people, it can have to do with like more of like an archaeological dig or something in the ocean that you're diving for. Like, there are so many different manifestations that the deep dive can have to do with. It can be in intimacy, it can be sexually, you know, it can be having to do with your family or your ancestry or your bloodline. It can have to do with your relationship with your children. There's so many different ways that this idea of go deep or go home can manifest for people. And that's why I always encourage you to get a one-on-one reading with me or any astrologer, but I would prefer it be me because I love reading and I would love to read for you. I think astrology works best when you go one-on-one with an astrologer. I read on Zoom, so I can read for people anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. You have the option of me recording the reading so that you can keep it. And but yes, let me get back to this reading. I want to talk about some of the aspects that the sun is making, and that's the part of what makes the season, this Scorpio season, unique to 2024 and different from the Scorpio season of 2023 or 2022 or 2025 ahead. And that's because of the particular alignments. The most important being that Scorpio's ruler, Mars, is in Cancer, debilitated. So Mars is dealing with some very emotional issues around family karma, around safety, around security, you know. And Scorpio in general, Scorpios are hyper concerned with security and security issues and privacy and things like that. So this is like a double down on that and on those kinds of issues with Mars in Cancer as the sun is traveling through Scorpio. There's the square with Pluto entering, and Pluto at that final degree of Capricorn. And so there are challenges around Capricornian issues. This can be fathers, this can be, you know, systems or structures. This has to do with an old world that's dying, and our kind of emotionally transformative and regenerative process of entering this new world and saying goodbye to this old world. There's a complete emotional recalibration that needs to take place. This is like deep, heavy stuff that we're dealing with. We are at the end of a very long cycle that began in 2008 in a certain period of our charts with that Pluto and Capricorn. And as this is ending, we're at the start of a 20-year cycle in Pluto and Aquarius that is very much the unknown. And so, you know, this is heavy stuff. And some people are so overly identified with the material realm, that Capricorn material realm of their stuff and their money and what they look like and, you know, their things, that there's no awareness about what's going on here. And it's so deep. And But I think that people are going to be brought into awareness during these next few weeks as Pluto is at this anaretic degree of Capricorn. And we do need to say goodbye to this old world and this old way of life for humanity, which affects us all, for the world, which affects us all. But it's obviously very personal for people who are Scorpios right now, because we're in Scorpio season, but also people who have any of the fixed signs very prominent in their chart, like Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, because the sun will be squaring some of your personal planets as it travels through Scorpio. And then, you know, the Scorpio new moon is coming on November 1st, which is going to be a new lunar cycle. That's like another wave of the Scorpio energy of transformation, death, rebirth, regeneration that we're going through as a human collective, but many of us in our personal lives too. And, you know, as I record this video, October 17th, at the Aries full moon, just a couple days before the sun enters Scorpio, we are still in the solar eclipse cycle of that Libra solar eclipse. It happened October 2nd. And, you know, as I say, the new moon really tells the story of the whole lunar cycle. It culminates in that full moon of the cycle, and then it starts to, you know, resolve as that full moon wanes and leads us to the next new moon. And those are kinds of the chapters of the year and those kinds of waves. But here comes the sun into Scorpio, another wave of the Scorpio energy following Venus's transit through Scorpio, following Mercury entering Scorpio. And Mercury is doing research, private investigations, detective work, psychoanalysis. Mercury is going in with deep thoughts and deep conversations. And that is, you know, and Mercury is also the ruler of Jupiter, who's over there in Gemini, retrograde, you know, kind of doing some re-examination of our value system, of our belief systems, of our spiritual beliefs. And this is all, you know, astrology is truly a holistic art, but I try and break it down into sections in my video so that you can kind of understand, because it's a lot to talk about all at one time. But on November 4th, the sun in Scorpio will trine Saturn in Pisces. And this is reminiscent of the grand water trine that formed with Venus and Pisces and Mars in Cancer, Saturn in Pisces, and Venus in Scorpio. And if you haven't, go back and watch the grand water trine video, because that grand water trine is present. Basically, the energy of that alignment is present all the way to the new moon of Scorpio, November 1st. Again, these are cosmic waves, but that will give more context to what I'm talking about now. But a trine is a harmonious aspect between the sun in Scorpio and Saturn in Pisces. This is a very soulful alignment. This has to do with very deep conversations. It has to do with, you know, deep contemplation. It has to do with emotional maturity, emotional intelligence. There's a lot of empathy and compassion and forgiveness here. You know, on a more literal level, it's like the building of structures to hold water or to contain water. This is sympathetic authority figures. This is creative mastery. This is very strong psychic ability, very strong intuition and instincts when you've got Scorpio, Trine, Pisces. There is a lot of emotional depth here. And, taking emotional responsibility, being disciplined with our emotions. All of this is present in this trine between the Sun in Scorpio and Saturn in Pisces, which is hitting an exact alignment on the 4th. And I believe that's the same day Mars will move into Leo. And so then the Sun will become ruled by that Mars in Leo, which would be the Sun's ruler. So then the Sun in Scorpio and Mars and Leo are in a mutual reception, working together in a much stronger way. But, and it's interesting that that happens right at the election, but I'm going to talk about that more in the New Moon of Scorpio video, because again, I don't want this video to go too long, and I'm trying to break it down into more digestible sections. On the 13th, the Sun in Scorpio will form a sextile with Ceres in Capricorn. This is an opportunity. I've been talking about Ceres and the whole food thing, and sure enough, like Ceres was involved in a grand square not too long ago in one of the videos that I recently did, and I was talking about the food and how important it is about watching what we're eating and putting in our bodies. And I saw this huge recall of all the meat going on. And so, the planets don't lie. They're talking to us. But this aspect, this sextile between the Sun and Scorpio and Ceres and Capricorn, there's an opportunity to learn so much more about what we're putting into our bodies, how we eat, how we nourish ourselves, literally with food, how we nourish the planet, but how we nourish ourselves emotionally and informationally as well. Like, nourishment there's different levels, how we nourish our relationships. Because the Sun is coming back and repeating all these transits that Venus just went through and highlighting. And it's like, what did we learn from that? And how are we going to process this and integrate it? How are we going to let the light in on these topics? I think that in the Pluto and Aquarius era that we're headed towards, our relationship to food is going to be completely different. It's going to transform everything about our diets and what we understand about food and what we put into our body. It is like the single most important thing to health. And for whatever, certainly in Western medicine, that hasn't been as regarded. I know like in Chinese medicine, they say that all disease begins in the gut. And for whatever reason, Western medicine, as long as I've grown up in America, has never put that at the forefront. They've always like kind of like you get sick and then you get medication instead of looking at like what is the source, what are we eating, how are we nourishing ourselves. Capitalism encourages the most unhealthy diets and way of eating possible. In America, certainly we eat too damn much, okay? We don't even need that much food, and we're taught that we did. I remember when we were growing up talking about like 3 meals a day of the 5 food groups. You don't need all that food. That's why Americans are so fat. But I digress. I just wanted to say that we are at a time where there is an opportunity, and it behooves us to be learning more about how we nourish ourselves, what our relationship is to food, how we grow food on the planet, and what we eat. It affects everything. It's a holistic picture. And so that's there. Then on November 16th, the Sun is opposing Uranus. This is shakeups, this is surprises and shocks around the leadership, around world leaders, on the collective, presidents and kings, CEOs, in our personal lives. Solar figures are like fathers, bosses, coaches, these kinds of people. So there's a real shakeup or surprise energy around that. It won't be personal to you unless you have planets at those, I don't know, I think it's around the 26th degree of 27 maybe of Scorpio and Taurus. Excuse me, I lost my train of thought. The Sun Saturn trine will be very personal. If you have any planets at 13 to 14 degrees of any of the fixed signs or mutable signs or water signs, the Sun square to Pluto when it enters will be very personal to you. If you have any planets in the late degrees of the cardinal signs or 0 degrees of the fixed signs, I try to remember to announce who it's going to be personal to and who's going to experience it as a more collective experience in the headlines and on the world stage. But yeah, on November 16th, this is surprises and shakeups around the leadership. And it can also be surprises or shakeups around money and banking and stocks. It can bring literal or metaphorical earthquakes, geologically speaking. And because there's water involved, when you mix a water and an earthquake, what do you get? I think a tsunami. So there's that kind of energy going on. But it can just be a tsunami of emotion as well, you know, like, because that's all in the air. There's like multiple levels that these transits are kind of flowing on. And then on the 18th, you have the Sun trine Neptune. This can be transcendental spiritual experiences. This can be, again, this level of creative mastery in the arts that Neptune influences, like music, dance, filmmaking, photography, painting, anything to do with images. And you know, Neptune rules the arts, but Neptune is also healers, like doctors, but also like shamans and healers of all kinds. So there's a level of mastery in the arts, a level of mastery and healing that can be seen during this transit. People can be having psychic experiences, psychic dreams, channeling experiences. For some people, it can be just like really great sleep, really great experiences around the ocean. This can be, you know, just soulful healing experiences in general. Yeah, that's the Neptune transit. It can be, you know, dreams coming to fruition. So that's a beautiful transit. It's a very ethereal, artistic, healing, soulful transit between Neptune and the Sun. And there's a lot of, compassion and forgiveness and empathy and I don't know. So those are the major aspects that the Sun is making. And this is a deeply emotionally transformative time. And there will be experiences, you know, definitely watch my full moon and Aries video if you haven't. I'll be back with a new moon and Scorpio video. I've already done an election prediction video. If you haven't watched that, go back and watch that. I didn't talk about that stuff too much in this video. But if you read between the lines, it's here. I didn't get into the specifics in this video because I've already talked about my predictions on the election very specifically in other videos. Again, it's here in this one too, if you read between the lines of everything that I said about the transits. But if you want a more specific, hit you over the head with a frying pan, go back to my, I did a whole prediction video called The Empire Strikes Back. And I also did, in the full moon of Aries video, I expanded on some more specifics around that prediction. I'll put both of the links for those videos below in the notes of this video so you have easy access to them. I'll also put the grand water trine and Venus in Scorpio and Mercury in Scorpio videos in my notes below, because all of those videos will give more context to the sun's journey through the sign of Scorpio in 2024, and why this is such a deeply emotionally transformative time for the collective and for many of us in our personal lives. And as I always say, I encourage you to contact me for a reading. Also, because it's Scorpio season, this is a great time to get your favorite Scorpio a gift. Give them the gift of a reading for their birthday. I have really cool digital gift certificates that you can give. Giving the gift of a reading is such a special gift because it's something that sometimes people won't buy for themselves, but it's such a great gift of self-discovery, self-awareness, connection to the cosmos and the universe. It's such a unique gift. And most Scorpios, like, I feel like all Scorpios kind of have an innate understanding of these kind of esoteric arts, even if they don't really talk about it much, or, you know, yeah. So I think it's a gift that many Scorpios would appreciate. So if you have a Scorpio in your life, definitely consider giving them a digital gift certificate. And I will put the way to reach me by email in my in the notes. And you can also book a reading with me directly on my website. All of that will be in the notes. And thank you so much for joining me. Have a happy Scorpio season.